Most people begin from zero believing that money is a reward for effort, patience, or moral consistency. They assume the world is a delayed meritocracy, where doing the right things for long enough eventually produces wealth. That belief is not naive by accident, it is socially necessary. A system cannot function if everyone understands how money actually moves. In 2026, starting from zero is not a disadvantage because of missing resources. It is a disadvantage because most people begin from the wrong psychological position. They attempt to earn money while standing in places specifically designed to extract value from them. They confuse movement with progress, activity with leverage, and exhaustion with advancement. Money does not flow toward effort, it flows toward control. It does not reward those who work the hardest, but those positioned closest to decision points, bottlenecks, and dependencies. If money truly followed virtue or diligence, the poorest people in society would not be its most disciplined laborers. The uncomfortable truth is that the system functions precisely because effort and reward are decoupled. Most advice fails because it teaches behavior without addressing position. It tells people what to do, not where to stand. It teaches skills while ignoring leverage, ethics while ignoring incentives, and discipline while ignoring structure. As a result, people become more capable workers inside games they do not control. This is not about motivation, passion, or personal growth. It is about survival inside a competitive economic environment that no longer pretends to be fair. The strategies discussed here are not polite, inspiring, or socially comforting. They are designed for people who start with nothing and cannot afford illusions. In unstable systems, morality is rarely the winning variable. What matters is timing, placement, perception, and control of narratives. Those who understand this early gain distance from those who insist on playing by outdated rules. Those who do not are not punished loudly. They are ignored quietly. Most people remain poor not because they lack intelligence, but because they remain loyal to identities that make them predictable. Predictable people are easy to price, easy to replace, and easy to extract from. Wealth accumulates around those who break predictability before the system has time to react. This is why studying power is uncomfortable. Power exposes incentives, not intentions. It explains outcomes without moral decoration and forces confrontation with how much struggle is structural rather than personal. Niccolò Machiavelli never taught people how to be good. He taught them how power behaves when stripped of ideals. His relevance today is not philosophical but mechanical. He described how advantage is created, preserved, and lost in environments where appearances matter more than truth. These 12 strategies are not meant to make you admirable, they are meant to make you difficult to ignore. They are built around a single principle: money moves toward those who control friction, fear, and dependency. Everything else is commentary. If you are looking for reassurance, this is not the place. If you are looking for permission to stop playing a losing role, this is where it begins. By the end, you will not feel inspired. You will feel exposed to a set of choices you can no longer unsee. Because once you understand how money actually moves, staying poor stops being a mystery. It becomes a position you are actively choosing. Money follows position, not effort. Most people believe income is proportional to effort because that belief keeps them moving. They are taught that working harder, improving skills, and being reliable will eventually be noticed and rewarded. In reality, effort only has value when applied inside a position that controls outcomes. Outside of that position, effort becomes fuel for someone else's leverage. Money does not accumulate where work is done. It accumulates where decisions are made. The executor is replaceable. The decision maker is scarce. This is why the most exhausted people in any system are rarely the highest paid. Exhaustion is not a signal of progress. It is often evidence of structural weakness. Starting from zero, the most dangerous mistake is choosing a role instead of choosing a position. Roles are defined by tasks, expectations, and obedience. Positions are defined by access, control, and dependency. A role answers questions. A position decides which questions matter. In every functioning market, there are choke points where value must pass. These points are rarely glamorous and often invisible. They may be gateways, coordinators, aggregators, curators, or filters. Whoever controls them does not need to be the most talented, only the most strategically placed. Effort applied outside a choke point depreciates over time. Effort applied at a choke point compounds. This is why two people with equal intelligence and discipline experience radically different outcomes. One is paid for time. The other is paid for access. Most people avoid these positions because they require responsibility without clear instructions. They involve ambiguity, conflict, and the risk of being disliked. It feels safer to be excellent at execution than accountable for outcomes. But safety is expensive, and it is paid for with long-term dependency. To escape zero, the primary question is not what can I do, but where does money have no choice but to pass? That question immediately disqualifies most conventional advice. It forces a shift from skill accumulation to structural awareness and reframes work as occupying space rather than proving worth. This is why power thinkers like Machiavelli focused on placement over virtue. He understood that outcomes are decided before effort even begins. When you control position, effort becomes optional. When you do not, effort becomes endless. The first strategy is brutal but simple. Do not try to outwork the system. Step into a place where the system must negotiate with you. From that moment on, money no longer measures how hard you try, but how difficult you are to bypass. Sell what others are afraid to sell. Most markets are crowded not because demand is low, but because courage is scarce. People avoid selling anything that risks judgment, rejection, or social friction. They choose safety over clarity, politeness over precision, and approval over revenue. As a result, entire categories of demand remain underserved in plain sight. Money concentrates around problems people are ashamed to admit. Fear, incompetence, status anxiety, envy, sexual insecurity, financial ignorance, and the terror of being left behind are not niche emotions. They are universal, yet most sellers sanitize their offers to appear respectable. In doing so, they disconnect from the very urgency that drives purchasing decisions. People do not pay for solutions, they pay to escape exposure. They pay to avoid looking weak, uninformed, or inferior. The strongest offers are not those with the best features, but those that speak directly to what the buyer cannot say out loud. When you name the fear clearly, the sale becomes a relief rather than a transaction. This is why markets reward those willing to say what others avoid. Speaking plainly creates tension, and tension creates attention. Attention, when paired with precision, converts into trust. Trust formed under emotional pressure is stronger than trust formed through explanation. Most competitors lose not because they lack skill, but because they seek comfort from their audience. They soften language, dilute promises, and hide behind complexity to avoid being attacked. That strategy keeps them safe but invisible. In competitive environments, invisibility is fatal. Selling uncomfortable truths filters the audience automatically. Those who are not ready leave, saving you time and dilution. Those who stay are pre-qualified by self-recognition. They do not need persuasion, they need permission. This approach requires emotional insulation. You must tolerate being misunderstood, criticized, or labeled aggressive. These reactions are not indicators of failure. They are evidence of contact with real demand. Silence is more dangerous than backlash, because silence signals irrelevance. Strategy 2 is not about provocation for its own sake. It is about precision in addressing suppressed needs. Say the thing others are afraid to articulate, and you inherit the market they abandoned. In economies saturated with politeness, bluntness becomes a competitive advantage. Enter late, exit with control. The myth of the pioneer persists because it flatters the ego. People want to believe that being first is noble, visionary, and therefore rewarded. In reality, being first usually means absorbing uncertainty, educating the market for free, and bleeding resources while others observe. The market does not thank pioneers, it studies them. Late entry is not weakness when it is intentional. Entering after patterns are visible allows you to bypass trial and error and focus on optimization. You are not discovering what works. You are identifying what scales, what converts, and what people already pay for. This shifts risk from survival to execution. The mistake most late entrants make is imitation without refinement. Copying surface features produces average results. Strategic entry requires identifying one variable that materially changes outcomes: pricing structure, speed of delivery, framing of value, or audience selection. Small structural changes outperform originality when timing is right. Markets reward efficiency more than novelty. Once demand exists, customers prefer clarity over creativity and reliability over innovation. They want faster solutions, simpler choices, and fewer decisions. Whoever reduces friction without increasing uncertainty becomes the preferred option. This is why power-oriented thinkers emphasize timing over bravery. Winning is less about courage than about choosing moments when resistance is low. Acting too early exposes you. Acting too late erases you. Acting at the inflection point gives you leverage. Late entry also benefits from comparative positioning. When alternatives already exist, you can define yourself against their weaknesses. You do not need to explain the category, only why you are the better choice within it. Competition becomes validation, not threat. Entering late requires discipline, not hesitation. You must resist the urge to innovate prematurely and wait for signals that demand has stabilized. Once those signals appear, speed matters more than originality. Delay after clarity is as costly as haste before it. Strategy 3 is simple in logic and difficult in temperament. Do not rush to be seen as visionary. Let others reveal the terrain, exhaust themselves and normalize the demand, then enter decisively. Cut inefficiencies. Leave the market with fewer options than it had before you arrived. Turn knowledge into a toll, not a gift. Most people give away knowledge hoping it will create opportunity later. They believe visibility leads to value, and generosity leads to leverage. In practice, free knowledge rarely converts into power. It educates the market while leaving the educator structurally irrelevant. Information only becomes valuable when it saves time under pressure. People do not pay to learn everything. They pay to skip confusion at a specific moment. The mistake is selling completeness instead of selling access. When you control the moment of entry, you control the price. The most profitable knowledge is never broad. It is situational. It appears exactly where people are stuck, delayed, or about to make a costly mistake. Teaching fundamentals attracts attention. Solving bottlenecks attracts money. The difference is not depth, but timing. Markets punish those who over-explain. Excessive transparency removes urgency and collapses perceived advantage. When everything is available, nothing feels necessary. Scarcity is not created by hiding truth, but by controlling sequence. This is why power-oriented frameworks emphasize gates rather than broadcasts. A gate forces a decision. A broadcast invites consumption without commitment. It builds an audience that leaves once satisfied. A gate builds dependency. One produces attention, the other produces leverage. Niccolò Machiavelli understood that control is maintained through access, not generosity. He did not distribute insight freely. He advised rulers on when to reveal, when to withhold, and when to act decisively. Knowledge given without structure weakens authority. Knowledge released through permission strengthens it. Turning knowledge into a toll does not require secrecy. It requires restraint. You give enough to prove relevance, but not enough to eliminate need. This balance keeps you positioned as a reference point rather than a resource library. Strategy 4 is not about hoarding information. It is about monetizing clarity at the moment it matters. When people must pass through you to move forward, your knowledge stops being content and starts becoming infrastructure. Target desires. People pretend not to have. The largest markets are built around desires people publicly deny. Status, dominance, comparison, sexual confidence, financial superiority, and the fear of irrelevance drive more behavior than any noble aspiration. Yet most sellers avoid these motives to appear ethical, enlightened, or socially acceptable. What they gain in approval, they lose in revenue. People rarely buy what sounds good. They buy what feels necessary. A desire does not disappear because it is criticized. It goes underground. Underground desires are more powerful because they are charged with shame and urgency. Whoever speaks to them directly gains immediate psychological leverage. This is why polite markets are usually crowded and underpaid. Everyone competes over acceptable narratives like self-improvement, balance, and positivity. Meanwhile, real demand moves quietly toward those who address hierarchy, power, and advantage without apology. Silence around taboo needs does not eliminate them. It transfers profit to bolder players. Addressing hidden desires requires precision, not exaggeration. Naming the desire too crudely triggers resistance. Avoiding it entirely kills relevance. The effective approach is to describe the outcome people want without moral framing, allowing the buyer to recognize themselves privately. Recognition precedes purchase. Machiavelli understood that public virtue and private motivation rarely align. He wrote for leaders who had to manage appearances while acting on reality. Power is not built by denying human impulses, but by understanding how they operate beneath language. Markets behave the same way. Strategy 5 is about courage through clarity. Do not sell what sounds respectable. Sell what shah. NG's a person's position relative to others. When you speak to the desire people hide even from themselves, you stop competing for attention and start competing for control. Frame the game. Never argue inside it. Argument is the behavior of those who accept someone else's structure. The moment you debate, you have already agreed to the terms, the language, and the boundaries set by another party. Winning an argument inside a bad frame still leaves you trapped in it. Power is not proven by being right. It is demonstrated by deciding what right even means. Framing is the act of defining the problem before others realize there is a choice. Whoever names the issue controls how solutions are evaluated. This is why leaders speak in premises, not explanations. They do not defend positions. They establish contexts where alternatives feel irrelevant. Most people lose money because they try to convince instead of position. They explain value rather than dictate standards. Explanation signals uncertainty. Framing signals authority. Markets do not reward those who justify themselves. They reward those who set expectations early. Once a frame is accepted, resistance collapses quietly. People stop asking whether they agree and start asking how to adapt. At that point, persuasion is no longer required. Compliance feels logical. The sale happens not because you argued well, but because you removed the need to argue at all. Machiavelli understood that control begins before conflict appears. He advised rulers to shape perception so opposition never fully forms. A well-set frame makes dissent look irrational rather than dangerous. Markets respond to the same mechanics. Strategy 6 is therefore about refusing reactive positions. Do not chase approval or validation through debate. Define the lens through which your offer, price, and authority are interpreted. When you control the frame, every conversation that follows already leans in your favor. Monetize dependence, not transactions. One-time transactions create income. Dependence creates power. A single sale ends the relationship the moment payment clears. Dependence extends it indefinitely by embedding you into the buyer's ongoing process. Markets reward those who become necessary, not those who are merely useful. Most people sell outcomes. Few sell continuity. Outcomes are finite and easily compared. Continuity is ambiguous, emotional, and resistant to substitution. When someone relies on you to maintain a state, not just achieve it, price sensitivity decreases and loyalty increases. Dependence is not built through manipulation. It is built through structural placement. You control inputs, updates, maintenance, interpretation, or adaptation over time. The buyer does not return because they are forced to, but because leaving introduces friction, risk, or uncertainty. Stability becomes the product. This is why recurring models outperform one-off brilliance. Subscriptions, retainers, memberships, ecosystems, and habitual touchpoints convert relevance into routine. Once routine forms, alternatives feel disruptive rather than attractive. The decision to stay becomes passive, which is where money flows most reliably. Machiavelli understood that loyalty is strongest when exit is costly. He advised rulers to build systems where allegiance felt natural and departure felt dangerous. Dependence stabilizes power not through fear but through familiarity. Markets behave the same way under sustained pressure. Strategy 7 is therefore about shifting the question from "how do I sell this?" to "how do I make myself difficult to remove?" When people organize their behavior around your presence, income stops fluctuating with effort. At that point, money follows habit, not persuasion. Control perception before seeking payment. People do not evaluate offers objectively. They interpret them through signals. Before price, before logic, before comparison, there is perception. Whoever controls perception controls how value is measured. Money follows authority long before it follows understanding. Trust is rarely built through explanation. Excessive explanation signals insecurity and invites scrutiny. Authority reduces questions by making doubt feel unnecessary. When people sense certainty, they relax their need to analyze. This is why symbols matter more than statements. Positioning, tone, restraint, and consistency communicate more than promises ever could. A calm presence suggests control. A controlled message suggests experience. Experience creates trust even when details remain unclear. Most beginners fail because they try to earn trust after asking for money. This reverses the natural sequence. Trust must exist first, or price becomes the only variable under discussion. When price is the focus, the seller has already lost leverage. Niccolò Machiavelli understood that appearances precede outcomes. He observed that people judge authority based on what is visible, not what is true. Power is sustained by managing impressions before challenges arise. Markets operate on the same psychological architecture. Strategy 8 is therefore discipline in presentation. Do not rush to prove intelligence or transparency. Establish a perception of control, stability, and selective access. When trust is assumed rather than requested, payment feels like alignment, not risk. Step outside collective morality. Collective morality exists to stabilize groups, not to create winners. It defines acceptable behavior, RDS conformity, and punishes deviation through shame rather than force. For most people, obeying it feels safe because it offers belonging. For anyone trying to escape zero, it quietly enforces limitation. The crowd moralizes outcomes it cannot reach. When someone advances faster, earns more, or bypasses struggle, the group reframes success as unethical, lucky, or exploitative. This narrative protects the collective from confronting its own inefficiency. Moral judgment becomes a defense mechanism against comparison. Most people remain poor not because they lack skill, but because they fear social penalties more than economic ones. They hesitate to charge more, speak bluntly, or choose advantage because they do not want to be disliked. Approval becomes more valuable than leverage. That trade always ends the same way. Stepping outside collective morality does not mean becoming destructive or lawless. It means refusing to let group emotion dictate personal strategy. You stop asking whether something is praised and start asking whether it works. Effectiveness replaces virtue as the primary metric. Machiavelli understood that rulers could not govern by moral purity alone. He separated private ethics from public effectiveness. Knowing survival required different rules. Power collapses when leaders try to be loved by everyone. Markets punish the same confusion. Strategy 9 is therefore psychological insulation. You must tolerate being misunderstood, criticized, or quietly resented. These reactions are not signals to retreat. They are evidence that you have left the safe zone. Once moral approval stops guiding decisions, money becomes a strategic outcome rather than a moral debate. Use people as leverage, not as identity. Doing everything yourself feels virtuous, but it signals low strategic position. Self-reliance is praised because it keeps people contained within their own limits. The moment your income depends entirely on your personal output, your ceiling is already fixed. Control begins when results are produced without your constant presence. Leverage is the ability to multiply outcomes without multiplying effort. This comes through other people's time, skills, networks, and attention. The most common mistake is confusing delegation with loss of control. In reality, refusing to delegate guarantees dependence on your own exhaustion. Those who insist on doing everything personally justify it with quality or trust concerns. What they are protecting is identity, not outcomes. Being needed feels powerful, but it traps you at the center of every operation. Power increases when you become replaceable in execution, but irreplaceable in direction. Markets reward architects, not builders. Builders are essential, but interchangeable. Architects decide structure, sequence, and priorities. Once this distinction is accepted internally, the transition from labor to leverage becomes unavoidable. Machiavelli understood that rulers who relied on their own strength alone were fragile. He advised structures, allies, and delegated force to extend reach beyond the individual. Power that scales is never personal. It is systemic. Strategy 10 is therefore a shift in self-concept. Stop measuring worth by how much you can personally handle. Measure it by how effectively you organize others toward outcomes you control. When people work inside systems you design, money stops being tied to your hands and starts responding to your decisions. Turn instability into acquisition. Chaos does not destroy value, it redistributes it. During instability, most people freeze, retreat, or wait for clarity that never fully arrives. That hesitation creates gaps where assets, attention, and opportunity change hands quietly. Those who move while others pause in erit ground without resistance. Uncertainty compresses decision-making windows. When fear rises, people prioritize relief over optimization. They accept worse terms, faster solutions, and stronger authority simply to regain a sense of control. The seller who understands this does not amplify panic. They offer structure when structure is scarce. Most individuals respond to crisis emotionally, not strategically. They reduce ambition, cut exposure, and protect identity. This response feels safe, but it produces long-term loss. Advantage accumulates to those who expand selectively, while others contract indiscriminately. Instability reveals who actually controls systems and who merely participates in them. Supply chains fracture, roles blur, and loyalties weaken. These moments expose entry points that remain invisible during stability. Acquisition becomes easier because resistance is distracted by survival. Niccolò Machiavelli understood that disorder was not an enemy to be feared, but a condition to be exploited. He observed that new power often emerges when old structures fail to respond quickly enough. Those who act decisively during turbulence set new rules by default. Markets follow the same logic under stress. Strategy 11 is therefore about timing expansion to moments others avoid. Do not wait for certainty, wait for imbalance. When stability returns, positions taken during chaos become normalized advantages. What looked risky in motion appears inevitable in hindsight, become impossible to remove. The highest level of earning is not about selling more. It is about becoming structurally unavoidable. When your presence is optional, price is negotiable. When your absence creates disruption, price becomes secondary. Money flows toward what cannot be bypassed without cost. Irreplaceability is not built through talent alone. Talent can be sourced, trained, or replicated. What cannot be replaced is positioning within a system where outcomes depend on your continued involvement. You are not valuable because of what you do, but because of what stops working when you leave. Most people try to be impressive. Very few try to be embedded. Embedded roles exist at intersections where coordination, interpretation, or continuity is required. Removing you would require rebuilding processes, relationships, or expectations. That friction protects your position more effectively than reputation ever could. This level of leverage is invisible to outsiders. From the surface, it may appear that you are doing less while earning more. In reality, you have shifted from execution to dependency management. The system adjusts around you rather than the other way around. Machiavelli understood that lasting power does not announce itself. It settles quietly into structure, making resistance impractical rather than dramatic. He advised creating conditions where removal would be more damaging than tolerance. Stability, not admiration, was the goal. Strategy 12 is the final transition out of zero. Stop asking how to earn more and start asking how to make exit expensive for others. When you become the reference point, the coordinator, or the stabilizer, money stops chasing effort. It stays because leaving you costs too much. The cold exit. If you have listened this far, something should already feel uncomfortable. Not because the ideas are complex, but because they remove excuses you may have relied on for years. Once the mechanics are visible, confusion disappears. What remains is choice. None of these strategies require luck, permission, or exceptional talent. They require a willingness to abandon identities that feel virtuous but produce nothing. The most expensive habit is loyalty to roles that make you predictable. Predictability is efficacy. NT for systems, not for individuals seeking leverage. The market does not punish ignorance as harshly as it punishes misplaced loyalty. Loyalty to effort without position. Loyalty to morality without outcome. Loyalty to identity without advantage. These loyalties feel honorable, but they quietly guarantee stagnation. Money is not emotional, personal, or moral. It behaves mechanically, moving toward control, scarcity, and dependency. Once you understand that, poverty stops being mysterious. It becomes the visible consequence of standing in the wrong place for too long. Many will reject these ideas not because they are false, but because they are destabilizing. Accepting them would require admitting that suffering alone has no bargaining power. That realization is threatening to anyone who invested years into endurance instead of positioning. Denial is often cheaper than adaptation in the short term. Machiavelli never promised safety, fairness, or admiration. He described reality as it behaves when stripped of comforting narratives. His relevance today lies in his refusal to confuse intention with outcome. Markets operate with the same indifference. If you remain at zero after understanding these dynamics, it is no longer a question of knowledge. It is a question of tolerance for risk, discomfort, and social friction. Many would rather remain poor than become strategically misunderstood. That preference is valid, but it has consequences. Wealth does not require cruelty, it requires precision. Precision appears cold to those who confuse emotion with virtue. Distance is misread as arrogance by those who rely on proximity for value. From this point forward, every action either increases leverage or reinforces replaceability. Every choice moves you closer to control or deeper into dependency. There is no neutral ground once the structure is clear. This is not an invitation to hustle harder. It is an invitation to stand elsewhere. To stop asking how to earn more and start asking where value has no alternative but to pass. To stop seeking approval and start engineering necessity. Money does not need belief. It only needs you to remain in positions designed for you to lose. Once you step out of those positions, the game changes quietly. And when the game changes, effort finally matters, because it is applied where it can no longer be ignored.